Hello and welcome to our channel, Marstream, your public performance broadcast platform. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. You can also donate to our tip jar and support the arts and artists of Marstream by clicking the link below in the description. Check out our website, themarsh.org, for all upcoming live performances. Now, enjoy the show.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I feel as things start to change, how grateful I am that, let me knock on this, be quiet over there. How grateful I am that the Marsh has actually kept this going. It just feels really exciting. And I'm sure it's something that will continue in some way. I feel very fortunate, and it feels like so much has happened because of Stephanie's leadership to make this happen and all the staff that's been there. Anyway, I felt
the continuity of throughout this whole pandemic has been really kind of a life.
Yes, it's been great. So they just put the link in there to donate to the tip jar, and it really is it's basically a free thing that you get to see, and donations help make it all possible. So thank you.
So on that note, this is going to be our last, as far as we know, this is going to be our last online performance. We're going to take July off and then come back in August. On the stage is what the plan is for now. We have to work out the logistics of that, but that's the plan. So that's exciting.
It is exciting. And as you know, Bridget, actually, we started at the Marsh in August.
All right.
I want to say, I can't remember, like 9 years ago, or 11 years ago.
It's more than 10 because we did 5 at Julia Morgan. So
that's right. So 11 years ago, we started in August. So it's just perfect. Anyway, but given that it seemingly might be our last Zoom performance, it feels sort of special. And it's also special because if you have watched the emails, we are celebrating our 16th anniversary.
And this is our second anniversary performance on Zoom.
Yeah.
And Tim just reminded us that he promised us a cake on our 15th anniversary, which he did not get to deliver on. And then he was going to do it for our 16th anniversary, again, unable to deliver. So come to our 17th.
And we'll have cake.
And
and hopefully we can share it. So anyway, so we're excited to be here. And we've got 3 performers tonight. And tonight, although Bridget saw the pieces, I have not seen them. I know who the people are. I know the sense of their work. She tells me it's such a great group to represent just how vast stories are told. So if that feels kind of exciting, I had a sense that might be the case, and she let me know that was the case. So that was exciting.
Yeah, really strong performers tonight. You're going to really enjoy these variety of stories as well. So, yeah.
All right. So let's get the ball rolling.
All right. So, for those of you who, our names are on our screens right now. So when we forget to introduce ourselves, you can just look at the bottom and see that. But I'm Bridget Frederick, and that's Rebecca Fisher. We are the producers and the founders or whatever of Tell It on Tuesday. 16 years ago. And so we're super excited to see you all here. And we're gonna have 3 performers tonight. And we're starting off with Brenna Kelly. And I'm just gonna quickly read you her bio since you don't have a program. So Brenna Kelly is a comedian, writer, performing across the United States, Australia, and New Zealand. Artistic director of Story Tree Ranch, a destination venue in Mancos, sorry if I'm not saying that right, Mancos, Colorado, featuring storytelling, comedy, and live music. 15 acres of adventure with a light-filled creative arts center. Brenna is dedicated to facilitating workshops and entertainment on kicking aside self-imposed bloated nothingness. Time to play, create now, no fear. So Brenna is coming to us from Colorado tonight. So we have an out-of-state performer, and her piece is entitled "Alpaca My Bags." So let's welcome her to the stage.
I am crossing the street in Jack London Square in Oakland, California. It's a beautiful May afternoon when suddenly out of a Starbucks bounds this huge businessman, 6.5 feet tall, and he approaches me. You are like a beautiful story. I want to read all of your chapters. Me? Yes, let me take you to lunch. Oh, okay. We go to lunch. And thus begins the adventure of Gregory Nikultichev, a Brazilian that's been 20 years in the country. The first time I visit him in his Silicon Valley home with my German Shepherd Bo, he immediately takes us to the Home Depot, where he buys fencing material and builds a dog run in his backyard for my dog Bo. Oh, be still my heart, showing me you care for me? Oh my goodness. Well, when we go out to eat, he says, you order for me. I do not know. I do not want to regret. You order for me. Really? Yes, you choose. I no regrets for me. Okay, sweetheart, I can do that for you. When I was born, my father was very, very sick. A famous surgeon in Brazil. However, he became ill and he needed to leave the jungle and go to Sao Paulo for treatment. My mother had to decide whether to take care of me or go with my father. So she gave me to the housekeeper where I was raised with her children. It took a long time for my father to get well, and well, when I was 3 years old, I was given back to my mommy and daddy, but I didn't know them as my mommy and daddy. I only knew the housekeeper as my mother. There were no explanations, and I just wanted my mama. At night, I would crawl through my bedroom window and run through the jungle crying out, Mama, Mama! Oh my gosh, I feel his pain. Gregory, I was given up for adoption at birth. I know what it is to be abandoned. I can feel our pain, and I want to love the hurt away for the both of us. Yes, well, my first 3 children were born to 3 different mothers. I tell them I am not interested in marriage, but perhaps they think they can trick me. So they each get pregnant, and I'm a man of my word, so I do not marry them. Now, my 4th child, Gregory Jr., oh, I fall in love with a beautiful Brazilian good girl. I marry her, and Gregory Jr. comes, and, well, we live happy until I grow bored, so I leave them behind. I get a divorce, and I go to the United States. But when I am there, I miss them. So I go back to Brazil and I convince her to marry me a second time. And then the 3 of us go to the United States, where we build a very successful business. Yes, we live the American dream until, well, I fall in love with the client's wife, a crazy redhead, and I blow up my marriage. And, well, I have not been a good husband. I have not been a good son. I have not been a good father. I want to do better. Well, gosh, I know what it is to want to do better. Maybe I can trust this man. You know, Brenna, you have raised your children. I have raised my children. I love you. You are my family now. Let me take care of you. Well, Gregory convinces me to move from my home in Huntington Beach, Southern California, to his home in Silicon Valley in Northern California. And well, my wise parents told me never shack up with a man. And well, for my first 50 years, I followed their advice. And sure enough, when Gregory moved in my last stick of furniture, his attitude towards me changed. You know what I like about you? You have such low self-esteem. Anything I do for you, you appreciate. Excuse me? That doesn't land with me. Gregory, do you even know me? That is what I think. I kind of feel like he's grooming me to accept his reality, but he has no idea who he's dealing with. Yes, well, we spend time together and I live in his home and it's like an ill-fitting shoe. And we have plans to go meet his family in Brazil and the stakes are very high. He wants me to marry him on the sand in front of his family's beach villa in Tariabanga. Just before we're due to fly out on a Saturday, on a Thursday, he suddenly remembers, you need a visa. We must go to the Brazilian embassy in San Francisco. Well, we go to the Brazilian embassy and it's clear that much of the office staff he's probably dated. He does the old Gregory eye contact and the touching of his heart. And the works are in and they're going to get the visa in time so that we can go to Brazil. So while we're waiting for it to happen, we go downstairs to a coffee shop where we're both scrolling on our smartphones as we people do. When I look over at his smartphone and I notice he's on a dating site. Excuse me, Gregory. I hope you find someone good on there. What? I am fascinated with how the app works. Right. Okay. No, I am. Look. There on the dating app is a picture of the two of us. Gregory, this doesn't make me feel any better. It just looks like we're shopping for a third. I am not shopping for a third. Are you shopping for a third? No. It becomes very clear to me that I have no interest in going to a third world country with a rapscallion, a Lothario, a dating app peruser. But I know how convincing Greg. Wow. I've made the right decision. When I get back to Southern California, I decide to live in Lido Creek, California, which is like an affordable Topanga Canyon. And I put a little purchase option together on this adorable cottage. The back line of the property is a creek that runs all year long. It's completely fenced with an electric gate, and I'm happy there. And I think I'm never going to see Gregory again. Well, he's in Brazil for a month, and when he gets back, darling, I'm very ashamed in Brazil. People do not understand why I don't have my beautiful redhead. Yeah, Gregory, that might have something to do with the dating site. Listen, I love you. I make mistakes. I show you how much I love you. I bring all your furniture back to your new home. I ask you, please, can we go to couples counseling together? Well, I have a ninja therapist, Jack Felton, who cuts through all the baloney. Gregory brings every single stick of furniture back to me. We go to see Jack Felton. I love her. But when we are not together, we are not together. Jack, I love him, but he makes me crazy. Well, what you have to understand, Brenna, is you've got abandonment issues and you were given up at birth for adoption. And the two of you're trauma bonded. Ha ha, you see, my darling, we're bonded. He doesn't get it. Jack, I love him. Well, back in the day, darling, I loved heroin. Doesn't mean it was good for me. A light bulb goes on over my head. I don't want to give up on Gregory. I don't want to give up on us. Maybe we can love each other through our learning curve. Well, Gregory is going back and forth to the Silicon Valley for work and my little cottage in the canyon. And he shows up with a very big surprise. Close your eyes, darling. I have a surprise for you. Close your eyes. And he leads me out beyond the electric gate. Are you ready? Yes, my eyes are closed. I'm ready. Look. There in the back of a moving truck are 3 alpacas. A big one, a medium-sized one, and a little baby. Oh my gosh, are those for me? Yes, my darling, they are our love beasts. Together, we will tame them. We will spend lots of time with them. We will love them. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. Hi, guys. And Gregory, in his typical overbearing fashion, begins to unload the beasts. Once he gets them down, hi, guys. Hi. Voltaire, Rousseau, and Baptiste. They are so cute, guys. I think my neighbors are going to love my alpacas as much as I do. Frank, look, my alpacas. Aren't they cute? Well, hell no, they're not cute. Don't you realize that those are walking lamb chops to all the mountain lions in these here mountains? I bet they're watching right now. You're going to have carnage in your front yard, little lady. Whoa, Frank. You know, alpacas, they protect each other. They're formidable. Yeah. Real formidable. Hope you're ready to pick up bloody carcasses, because that's what lies in store for you. Wow, Frank, you're really bringing me down. Yeah. Why do you think we bring our animals in at night? It's so the mountain lions don't eat them. You're in for a rude surprise, young lady. Thanks, Frank. You've given me a lot to think about. Every night when I go to bed, I pray, dear God, please don't let the mountain lions eat my alpacas. And I fall asleep to the sound of the alpacas nibbling on the side of the house. Not because they're hungry, they're just curious. And they can. It's all very Hansel and Gretel. Right outside my sliding glass door is a 5-foot drop, unfinished deck. So what I do is I take alfalfa pellets and I spill them all along the threshold. And the alpacas walk up and start munching on the alfalfa pellets. Hi, guys. Then my 3 dogs join them. And all of my animals are having an animal buffet. And we're like a family. This is the kind of stuff that makes my heart happy. Yeah. So Gregory is working hard on his tiny home manufacturing plant up in Apple Valley. So he's not around to get to know the alpacas the way that I do. But within 3 weeks, I've got him leash trained. Come on, guys, come on. And the holidays are fast approaching. So on Christmas Eve, I put holiday scarves on them, holiday hats, and I lead all 3 of them just beyond the electric gate. And just then Gregory gets home and he can be media support. And as I lead the alpacas through the neighborhood, the neighbors come out of the woodwork and everyone is so happy and they're taking pictures with the alpacas. And I didn't know that adults could behave more like children than the children did. A good time was had by all. And it's a wonderful Christmas Eve. Christmas morning, I wake up and I have a small mountain of gifts for Gregory, but I know he doesn't like to celebrate Christmas. So I kind of have to coach him how to receive his gifts. Sweetheart, I have these gifts for you. And I'm just asking that you receive them with an open heart. Christmas is just another day. I am not comfortable with this. Gregory, please, I got these for you because I love you. First gift he opens is a picture that I have taken of him astride a very large motorbike inside his warehouse. Oh, I am quite a man. Quite a man. Yes, Gregory, you're quite a man. So these kind of things make it really hard to keep the faith that we're going to make it as a couple. It's a late January night, and Gregory comes home from work very late, and he knows better than to reach for me. And when he climbs into bed, he says, I was listening to a interview on the creator of Tony Soprano on NPR. Yes, and he described Tony Soprano as a shark swimming through the water, always smelling for fresh blood, never stopping. And I realize that is me. I am dead inside. All right, Gregory, good night. In the morning, he's gone. His key is taped to the French door. All of his belongings are gone. I take a big, deep breath. I head out into the chilly mountain morning air. My dogs are frolicking all around me. The alpacas come up and start nibbling on my neck. And I realize we've all moved on to our next adventure. I'll pack them up by eggs.
Well, that was your book.
Not
Maybe show it again.
Here it is.
There it is. No drama, llama.
I've graduated to llamas. I now have a llama.
Oh, that was so funny. I was totally. Bridget said, you'll know Brenna's piece because I know you from David's class. I said, no, I don't. But she goes, it's about her lover and getting alpacas. And I just laughed at that. Just right there. That was funny. That was really fun. That was very delightful. And I love that you're here because you represent like that. We couldn't have you if we were in real person. So it's really nice that we got you on this, this Zoom performance. And so hopefully you have more Zoom performances with the Marsh in your futures. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so next we're going to go to Tim Araneta. Am I saying it right? Suddenly I've got am I saying it right? Yes, I am. I know I'm saying it right.
I think.
Araneta, right. The master craftsman. I know Tim he's been around in our community forever. So I just suddenly got stage fright on saying his name. Here, Tim thinks traditional folk and fairy tales are far too interesting to be reserved for children. Of his storytelling, the Washington Post has said his methodical manner and quiet wit are a refreshing change of pace. But don't let this calm demeanor mislead you. Tim recently bested 5 other competitions to be crowned the champion of the Pittsburgh Storytelling Series 2021 Folktale Fight. So anyway, we're very excited to have Tim with us. We always love having you a part of our community, Tim. All right, let's welcome him.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here. I'm so happy that it's your 16th anniversary. And fair warning to those of you watching who are in the East Bay, I suspect Tell It on Tuesday will soon get its own driver's license. So if you're cut off suddenly in traffic by a smart looking monthly performance series, cut them some slack. They're new to the streets. So I've got a story for everyone, and I'm just going to take 40 seconds to give you some context. The story I'm about to tell you comes from East Turkestan. Those of you who are geography trivia buffs realize there's not been any such country on the planet for about 70 years. So technically, this story comes from the People's Republic of China. But I want to point out that in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Zone in Northwest China, the culture of the Uyghurs is not Chinese, and they'll be the first ones to tell you that. They consider themselves more related to Turkey and the Central Asian republics. You can see that they're right up next to Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan and Tajikistan and Afghanistan. And so when you hear about the Uyghurs in the news, and it's likely you will, you'll be able to say, hey, I heard a story from them one time. by that guy on Tell It on Tuesday. Once upon a time, there was a master craftsman. Now, his name was Heki Mahun. He had 3 sons, and he was well known for not only being a good craftsman at making knives and building stone fireplaces and playing instruments, but he had mastered 77 different arts and crafts and musical skills. And he even confessed that that was just a mere fraction of all the things that a human being could learn. But still, he told his sons, a human being without a skill is like a tree that doesn't bear fruit. So, my boys, it's time for you to learn a skill. Well, the oldest one said, Father, I want to learn to paint and sculpt. I want to be an artist. And the second son said, I want to be a musician. And the third son said, I want to be an excavator so I can dig tunnels. His 2 brothers stared at him. That's a stupid skill. No, said their father. No skill is inferior or superior to others. We're not talking about better or worse. You never know when a skill might prove of some use, get you out of some difficulty. But tomorrow you start your training. And it was true. For the next 3 years, those young boys trained and studied and trained and studied. And after those 3 years, they were master craftsmen in their own right. The oldest son, an artist. The middle one, a musician. And the third one, an excavator who could make excellent tunnels. And they were ready to prove to the world how skilled they were. Not so fast, said their father. For it is true that you can only be a master of your crafts if you can prove that you can teach others to do it. So what I want you to do is, with the new skill you have learned, teach your brothers. And so for the next year, that's what they did. And soon all 3 of them were equally good at painting and sculpture, at music, and at digging tunnels. Now, it so happened at about this time, there were some travelers who had entered Heki Mahun's country, and hearing about his renown and skill in craft, they paid a visit to him. Well, Heki Mahun welcomed them in, gave a feast in their honor, and then showed the guests what he had made. His paintings, he played music, he showed them the knives he had made, his carvings, and the guests were quite impressed. They brought forward gifts in his honor, but the last traveler seemed to hesitate. What is it, my friend? Is something troubling you? Well, we have heard of your reputation in my far-off country, and we brought these gifts, but I did not know how old you were, so my gift is not really appropriate for a person of your age. No, don't be embarrassed. Let me see it. And the traveler brought out a bright red silk gown that a young man might wear, but an old married person, not so much. But Heki Mahun accepted it. He inspected the fine quality of silk, looked at the stitching, marveled at the embroidery, and as he was inspecting it, a piece of paper slipped out. He picked it up, and on it, he noticed a portrait drawn of a beautiful princess. Now, tell me about her. And the traveler said, this is the princess in the city where I come from. Thank you for your gift. And it is a marvel. We should give thanks to God that such beauty exists in the world, such as princesses like these. The traveler went on his way, and Heki Mahun thought no more of the portrait and the gown. He put it on a shelf. But wouldn't you know it? One day soon, his oldest son was putting something on that very same shelf, noticed the gown, thought it was quite stylish, pulled it out, the portrait fell down, he picked it up, stared at that portrait. And that was it. He was love-struck. He couldn't concentrate anymore. All thoughts on the woman in that drawing. And he couldn't sleep. He could hardly eat. What could his parents do but hire a matchmaker to make the 3-month journey to that far-off country to ask the king if he might consider marrying his daughter to their son? I mean, wouldn't you do the same? But when the matchmaker arrived in that far-off country, the king did not welcome him. No, he treated the matchmaker like dirt. He threatened his life. He kicked them out of the palace. Nothing good ever came from your country. Get out of here. And the matchmaker had to flee for his life and brought the sad news to Heki Mahun that He didn't even get to deliver the marriage proposal. But the three sons, they would not stand for this. They packed up their belongings and then they headed out across the treacherous wastelands, traveling for 3 months to get to that country. And when they arrived, they got to work. They hired rooms in an inn, and then they went to the market and bought paper and paint. And they began to paint and paint and paint and paint. And after a few days, they went to the innkeeper and said, "Could you do us a favor? Do you think you could sell these in the marketplace?" "Well, I'm no judge of art. I don't know what people would pay for these, maybe 10 silver coins." "That sounds fair," said the oldest son. "If you make any more than that, you can keep all the rest." Well, the innkeeper gathered up those paintings of flowers, brought them to the marketplace, laid them out, and wouldn't you know it, people stopped, marveled at the quality of these paintings, and paid quite a bit of money. The innkeeper made quite a tidy sum, came back and said, "Would you be interested in making any more paintings?" "Indeed we would," said the brothers, and they set about, not just painting flowers, but, landscapes too, pageants, scenes of dances, courtly life, palaces, and famous battles. And every time the innkeeper went to the market, the paintings sold so quickly. The innkeeper became quite wealthy. And people were waiting eagerly for the new batch of paintings to be delivered to the market. In fact, the prime minister himself was in the marketplace one day, spied a painting, bought it, brought it to the king, and marveled. They both marvel at how good it was. And the king said, "I want this for my daughter." And when he presented the picture of the banquet to his daughter, the daughter said, "Do you know who painted that?" "No, daughter, why does it matter?" "Because this is the finest painting we've ever seen. If there is an artist nearby who can paint this, that person belongs here in our court. We could commission artwork from them." Well, the king let the prime minister know he should find the painter, and soon enough, the three brothers were summoned to the castle. Well, the eldest brother decided he'd go on his own first, and he put on his finest clothes. He presented himself at the castle. The knights, the guards of that palace, escorted him in, and there was the woman of his dreams. Not just on that piece of paper that he had been carrying with him, but now there, in person. He forgot to breathe. And as for the princess, well, she was quite taken with his good looks. "So," said the king, "you are quite the painter. What kind of painter are you? What kind of skills do you have? Can we commission you?" "Your Excellency, I can do 77 different styles of painting, 77 different styles of carving. I can also know 77 different types of music and can dig 77 different types of tunnels. But if it's a painting you want, a painting you shall have." And the princess said, "Could you do a stream running through a mountain valley with 20 different kinds of flowers?" "I shall have it for you within 10 days. Well, that oldest son went back to his brothers, and he was quite pleased that they'd gotten the commission. And they began to set to work. And 10 days later, sure enough, they returned to the palace with a very large scroll. Now, the king was out hunting somewhere, but the ladies in waiting and the princess could not wait to see the painting. And when it was unrolled, they could hardly speak. It was magnificent. A mountain valley with a clear blue stream running through it. And next to the stream, growing along the banks of that stream, 77 different fruit trees, and a garden with a pavilion surrounded by 77 varieties of roses. Under the pavilion's roof, carpets on which lay ladies in waiting and a princess, all of whom were admiring 3 musicians. The princess said, "This is remarkable. What can I pay you for it?" But the oldest son said, "Do not give us anything. It would be our honor if you would accept this gift. And if you will, I will dedicate myself entirely to you." Well, the princess liked the sound of that. And then she said, those musicians in the painting, they're you. You said you knew 77 styles of music. Can you prove it? Well, the brothers had brought their instruments with them, and so they began to strike up a tune, and all the ladies in waiting began to dance. And as excellent as these three young men were at playing music, the princess was equally good at dancing. She danced up a storm, and when they stopped to take a break, and the musicians put their instruments away, the eldest son asked if he might escort the princess on a walk through the city. But she said, no, my father will be home soon, and I do not think he would approve. I honestly don't know when we will be able to meet again. And that's when the youngest brother said, if I could arrange it so that you could meet my brother anytime you like, with your father being none the wiser, would that be something you're interested in? Why, of course, said the princess. 30 days. Give me 30 days and you will see my brother again. Well, the three brothers took their leave of the palace. And as they walked back to the inn, that youngest son took careful note of the type of ground he was walking on. And for the next 3 days, he walked back and forth from the palace gate to the inn, back to the palace gate, back to the inn. And then he went to his brothers and said, now we start digging. And they dug and they dug and they dug and they dug and they dug. And after 30 days of tunneling, they emerged into the princess's bedroom. And now she could travel between the palace and the brothers' inn whenever she liked to meet her lover, with her father being none the wiser. Now, I have to tell you, on Friday nights, the three brothers in the inn broke out their instruments and would play for the other guests. And soon the princess and her ladies in waiting came and danced. And soon word got out around the town, around the whole country, that the place to be on a Friday night was in that inn where the finest musicians and the finest dancers were performing. Now, so that she would not be caught, the princess and her ladies in waiting wore costumes and veils over their faces. But still, everybody had a good time, including the prime minister. He had such a good time, he went to the king and said, Your Majesty, you must come and see these musicians and these dancers. You will have such a good time. And so the king, he got his bodyguards, his advisors. They went as a pack one Friday night. And when they walked into the inn, everyone stood up as a sign of respect. When the king sat down, everybody else sat down. The music started, the dancing started. The king had a wonderful time. He had such a wonderful time. He came back the next Friday night. And the next, and the next. And then he said to his prime minister one day, you know, those Friday nights are truly remarkable, are they not? Yes, Your Majesty. Wonderful musicians. Ah, but it's the dancer I cannot stop thinking about. That one dancer, she is better than all the rest. She haunts my dreams. I think of her every waking moment. I wonder if you might make inquiries as to whether she would accept a proposal of marriage from me. Your Majesty, you are the king. I don't need to make inquiries. Order it done, and it shall be so. And the king did. And so the prime minister told the king's bodyguards, this Friday night after the dance, we shall ask the young lady dancing if she wishes to marry the king. And if yes, we shall have a marvelous celebration. And if she says no, well, then we will drag her back to the palace. Well, that Friday night, the king and his retinue entered. Everybody stood up. The king sat down. Everyone sat down. The music started. The dancing began. Now, next to the king, sitting next to him, one of the officers in his guard, it was the first time he had been to this event. He enjoyed the music. He enjoyed the dancing. And then he nudged the king in the ribs. Said, isn't that the princess? What are you talking about? Well, look at her shoes. Nobody in this country can afford shoes except for your daughter. I recognize those shoes anywhere. Haven't I been stationed outside her bedroom guarding her for most of my career? That's the princess. The king stood up. Everyone else stood up because the king stood up. The music stopped. The dancing stopped. The king bolted out of that inn and raced to the palace. Well, the princess, knowing something was up, dashed off stage, took off her dancing costume, put her regular clothes back on, ducked into the tunnel, ran back to her room, got into her bed, pulled the covers up, and pretended to be asleep. And no sooner had she done so than the door opened. The king came in with 2 guards. My daughter's sleeping. They tiptoed out of the room. The next day, the king summoned the officer who had pointed out his daughter's shoes and had him executed for insulting the family. The next Friday night, he went, looking forward to the entertainment again, but he could not enjoy the show. As he was watching the dancer, he kept staring at those shoes. Are those my daughter's shoes? He turned to the prime minister. Could that be my daughter? Look at her shoes. Could my daughter move like that? Well, Your Majesty, now that you mention it, I don't think anyone else could have shoes like that. That could be your daughter. The king stood up. Everybody else stood up. The music stopped. The dancing stopped. The king left and ran to the palace. Well, the princess stopped dancing. She ran off stage, ducked into the tunnel, ran back, got under her covers, pretended to be asleep. Just then the king came into the room, but she's sleeping. It couldn't be. He left and returned to the inn, and when he got there, everyone stood up. The king sat down. The music began again. The dancing began again. But then he was thinking. He turned to his prime minister. While I was gone, did the music and dancing continue? No, Your Majesty, it stopped until you came back in. This time, the king didn't wait for his retinue to stand up with him. He leapt from his seat and ran as fast as he could back to the palace. Well, the princess darted off stage, popped into the tunnel, and ran back to her room. But she was tired from all that dancing and all that running. And she got to her room. She popped out just as the door opened, and her father saw her there in her dancing clothes. You traitor, you're no daughter of mine. And he leapt for her, but she popped back into the tunnel and ran back to the inn, came out the other side, and her father ran after her. He ran through that tunnel, and he ran, and he ran, and he ran, and he ran, and he thought, this is the finest tunnel I have ever seen. I mean, this is a remarkable feat of engineering. This is quality construction. And when he popped out, he was so confused. Daughter, what is the meaning of this? I wish to marry this musician, who's also a painter and a tunnel excavator. Oh, you can't get married to just anyone. We don't even know who his family is. And at this, the 3 brothers explained how they had come from a far-off country, following a dream of meeting the woman in the drawing, and how their father was the master craftsman, Heki Mahoon. And the prime minister said to the king, you won't find a more reputable name in all of their country. And so the king agreed. It was a good match. There was a great feast, a great wedding celebration that lasted for 40 days. And I tell you, you should have been there because they make this pastry with a phyllo-type dough and crushed almonds and sugar that is so good. You should have been there. And when the celebration was over, they returned to the 3 brothers' country where they lived with the princess happily ever after. And that is the story of the master craftsman from the Uyghur people. Thank you.
Come back. Oh, there he is. Yay. Thank you. That was as delightful as your stories always are. And it's fun to see you do it all virtually just as well as in person.
It's always fun to do it the second time. Like there's so much more detail that I get out of it, you know, like all the little, I don't know, all the tunnel details and the costume details. And I don't know. I feel like both of those 2 stories, I got so much deeper into the second time hearing them. So it's always fun to revisit stories, you know?
It really is. Because you do hear different things the second time around. So thank you. It was a lot of fun. I kind of just relaxed into the story to now I'm kind of think, well, what do we have next? We've got, Sharon.
Frida just left a comment. I want to go to that inn. I know, right? Doesn't that
Yes, I do too.
with those musicians and look at their artwork.
Yeah, it took me to a whole nother world.
David Jacobson, finally a tunnel engineering tale.
Oh, that's funny. I love that when you were following up through the father was looking at him running up. It was great. All right, so Sharon, read us about Sharon. Sharon is another Marsh. She's been around forever with the Marsh. So, and she's created many works. So let's hear more about her.
Right,
I mean, I know, but I want to hear her bio.
Sharon Eberhard is excited to be back on Tell It on Tuesday's stage, even if virtually. She performed her solo shows at Savage Arts and Crazy Famous at the Marsh and at fringe festivals in Canada and lovely Fresno, California. I saw one of those. The Mark of the Minotaur will be on the Marsh's live stream July 17th and 18th. So this is an excerpt of that piece, and she'll be doing the whole thing on the 17th and 18th of July. If you want to come back in, she'll tell you more about that at the end. So let's welcome Sharon. Yay!
I'm not sure how long this takes. Part of me wants to just tell you the end, which you could Google. Who deciphered the ancient writing known as Linear B, and see what comes up? It might say Alice Kober, or it might say a man, Michael Ventris. But is that true? Is it historically accurate? I'm not a historian. I get more interested in the little footnotes, the personal stories, than in big events. And the more history you read, the more you realize that even big events can seem completely different depending on who's telling. It's like each version just shows that person's own prejudices and preoccupations. In this case, you're getting mine. Alice Kober was born in New York City in 1906. Her parents were recent immigrants from Hungary. Her father, an upholsterer, later a building superintendent. Alice earned a scholarship to Hunter College, where she studied Greek and Latin, the classics. When Alice graduated in 1928, she told friends that she wanted to decipher Linear B. And that seems bold, taking on a whole language at 21. But who knows how long it takes to decipher a language? And who knows how long you'll have. I mean, no one can know the length of their life. The Greeks had a saying. Linear B was discovered on Crete in 1900 by an English archaeologist digging at Knossos, the site of the ancient capital of Crete. And they found hundreds of these tablets filled with writing that dated to 1450 BCE, the time of the Trojan War, and 700 years before the invention of the Greek alphabet. So what language were they? Crete used to have its own language, but it disappeared, lost to history. And the island is 99 miles from mainland Greece and just as far from Turkey. It's famous in mythology for the story of King Minos, the labyrinth, and the Minotaur. I had to look those up. I never really liked mythology as a kid. It's full of these intense subjects like rape, murder, incest, that they try to gloss over. So it didn't really make sense to me. Plus, a hero will do good things because he is a hero. a woman will fall for him because he's a hero. That love is always instant, a heart inflamed with passion. And then the gods can step in at any moment to turn the tables. So it all seems arbitrary. And women don't get to be heroes. The most a woman can hope for is to be a star in the sky at her death. It's the consolation prize. And stars used to seem bigger back then, before modern light pollution. You would step away from the fire and they'd be right there, brighter than any flame, which is half light and half heat. And the moon, when it's full, seems to guide you or follow you. I was reminded of this recently camping, where you step outside and the stars begin so close to the ground, almost near enough to touch. I don't know how many stars Alice Kober saw in New York, or if she took the time to look. She started teaching Greek and Latin during graduate school. She told students, "You know a great work when you feel the back of your neck tingle." Alice became a professor at Brooklyn College. It had just been founded in 1930. It was the first part of City University of New York to teach men and women together. It was a free college and became known as the working man's Harvard. It took many good students who wouldn't get in elsewhere because of their race and religion. Alice bought a house for herself and her mother in Flatbush. And in her free time, she worked on Linear B, writing sets of symbols in little note cards that she stored in empty cigarette cartons. Alice loved to smoke. It's the one vice of hers that I could find out about. So, does Alice's hard work pay off? I want to tell you, but first you have to know the myth on Crete. King Minos received a gift from a god. Which god it was depends on what version you're reading. It was a bull that he was supposed to sacrifice to the god. But that bull was so beautiful, so studly. Minos put off the sacrifice, admiring the bull and adding it to his herd. He thought the god might not notice. And things seemed to go well. The harvest, good. His wife, about to bear a child. But it turned out that his wife, the queen, had also admired that bull. The child was born. With the head of a bull, the Minotaur. Minos built a labyrinth to hold the beast and waged a war to distract himself. He laid siege to Athens and did not give peace until they agreed to send 14 youths every 9 years to be fed to the Minotaur. Was this the kind of story that Alice was hoping to find on the tablets? There are a lot of things women weren't supposed to read back then. Even parts of the Bible were considered inappropriate for women. But if you read Greek and Latin, you could find stories of wild pagan orgies, forbidden passions. Yeah, the tablets might hold the truth of King Minos, or who knows what else. I feel bad for saying this. Well, all the pictures I've seen of Alice, she looks unremarkable. Her biographer said she tended toward plumpish, and I do not see that. Just brown hair, pulled back, small mouth, maybe a hint of a smile. The kind of woman who'd wear sensible shoes. And I think that's part of why I identify so much with Alice. Not being a striking beauty with luscious lips. Plus, I have always loved puzzles and mysteries. I will devour detective novels and murder mysteries, waiting to see who done it. Sometimes I'm disappointed at the end. Do you know that feeling, like sad? When all the possibilities, all the great mysteries of life are boiled down to one motive, a single act. I want a solution to the mystery, but I think that's part of why I have trouble in life sometimes. I'll consider so many options, and I will set a course of action. I apply myself, but then doubt creeps in, like, what's the point? But Alice Kober never experienced that. She boldly set her course like a hero. After many years of Athens, sending youths to be fed to the Minotaur, 1 year, the king of Athens' son, Theseus, volunteered to go and slay the Minotaur. His father said no, but Theseus was young and bold. He was a hero type, and that's what they do. Their ship was met on Crete by King Minos and his daughter, Ariadne. And we don't know how old Ariadne was, probably 15. And she must have been so beautiful. Because you never hear of ugly women in these stories unless they're evil. Ariadne's father had her host the welcome feast for the sacrificees. And she saw Theseus, tall, muscled, with his hair pulled back in a braid. And Ariadne couldn't imagine him being eaten by her older brother. Like her parents with the bull, Ariadne wanted to foil this sacrifice. So that night, she crept to the prison where the victims were being held, and she gave Theseus a ball of string, a sword, and a magic glowing crown that her cousin Dionysus had given her last year when the two of them snuck away from some royal adult boringness to check out the caves by the shore. Yes, Dionysus, god of wine and wild abandon, but he wasn't a god yet then. He was just a reckless teen with all these stories about who his real father was. And this crown was made of laurel leaves, like one step up from a crown of daisies. Until she saw how it glowed. Maybe his father really was a god. But that was last year. Right now, Ariadne is handing the crown to Theseus. She instructs him to tie the string to the gate of the labyrinth, sneak in, kill the Minotaur while it sleeps, and then follow the string back out. Do they kiss or even touch? They don't know how much time they have. So Ariadne waits by the gate. Could she see the stars? I imagine it's often clear and starry on Crete. I never used to be into looking at stars, and I thought that was something about me. But then I learned that my hometown of Buffalo, New York, has the most gray days of any city in North America. I could look across Lake Erie and see Canada 10 miles away, but the stars were too far. Did Ariadne look across the sea to Greece and dream of going there? Or was this the first time, moved by love for Theseus? Or was it opportunism or desperation? Her home life cannot have been good. With her parents, after the episode with the bull and the Minotaur. Sometimes she just wished they had gotten divorced. Although then she never would have been born. This is her first time to maybe leave with someone since Dionysus. And he was fun, but they were just kids. Plus, he's her cousin. Once, when I was in my 20s, I went home for a cousin's wedding, and my mother pushed me to line up for the bouquet toss. The flowers came toward me, and I expected someone else to reach in, but they bounced off my chest. So I had to pick them up and then watch as the groom ceremonially slid off the bride's garter to jeers, and then he tossed it, and my boyfriend at the time reached, but another guy got it. Good looking, not a complete stranger. He was going to slide it up my leg in front of everyone. I sat, my face flushed, red, hot. I turned to him. You know, we're cousins. Ariadne hears a sound. Is that an animal? A fight? Ka-chunk, ka-chunk. Alice Kober used a hole punch to mark the note cards that she cut out of old envelopes, postcards, and cigarette wrappers. Frugal during the 1930s, the Great Depression, and paper shortages of World War II. Alice was writing sets of symbols on the cards, and the holes helped her organize them. She was making a database using frequency analysis and statistics. Linear B has 87 symbols. It's too many for an alphabet. English has 26 symbols, Greek 24, Arabic 28, but it's not enough for pictographs. Chinese has over 50,000 symbols. So it was most likely a syllabary with symbols for a consonant and vowel together. But what sounds? What words? Ariadne and Theseus likely didn't share the same language, since Crete had its own. I mean, the word Cretan probably means stupid because Greeks wouldn't fully understand them. So Ariadne might have had to tie the string to the gate of the labyrinth for him. But the rest could be told with her eyes. Who needs words? Alice Kober found lists of words followed by numbers, like bookkeeping, and she deduced the symbol for total. Then she figured out gender, total men and women, boys and girls, cows and bulls. And these were major advances that no other scholar had made in 40 years of trying, not the ones in Greece or Norway or fancy English universities or Harvard and Yale. It was Alice in Brooklyn, New York. I imagine her washing dishes after her mother made dinner and going to make another discovery. I want to cheer. Go Alice, for working class girls, woo! For unremarkable women, woo! For sensible shoes, yeah! Go Alice, go Alice. You can cheer at home. Go Alice, go Alice. Not that she'd hear us all those years ago in Brooklyn. I mean, cheers there would be for the Brooklyn Dodgers, which maybe she heard. When I lived in New York, I could tell when the Yankees had a big night from like a mile away. So Alice could have heard the roar of the crowd. Yeah, woo! And imagine it was for her, hard at work as the stars twinkled overhead. Go Alice, go Alice, go Alice, woo!
That was so funny. That was great. There were so many levels to that. Oh, that was a lot of fun, Sharon. So she's a real person, Alice.
Alice, yes. Mm-hmm.
And how did you? Well, that's a whole Q&A. But you know what? I hope there's a Q&A with what are you doing? Well, we'll invite everyone up. Just anyway, that was so fun, and I want everyone to be able to see the whole thing, including myself, because I'm desperate now to see the rest of it.
I saw the version of it, and I can't wait to see it again. Yeah.
Oh my God! It had the three different levels of narrative were so fascinating. The narrator to the Alice to the mythology, which I absolutely love mythology. So, super fun. Let's bring everybody back up. What did you want to say, Bridget?
Well, the remarkable thing about it is that I did see the version of it that she did on the Monday Night March, and then I was thinking when she did it in rehearsal last week, like, wow, she hardly cut anything. And then I was like later on in the shower thinking like, oh wait, there was that other part, and I was starting to like all the other parts of it started to come back to me, and I realized like, oh no, but this was a really nice feel for the general gist of the rest of it. did a really good job of that.
So why don't we could start with you, Sharon, because you could tell us when your performance is, and then we'll go, because what we always do if we were on stage is we'd have you all up here, and we can just start with you telling us when we can see the rest of this piece.
Okay. July 17th and 18th, I'll be in the Marsh Stream. It's like the solo performer spotlight. So I'm excited to do the whole thing. The one thing is you have to register in advance. So it's like you have to go and buy a ticket at least 1 hour before the show. Because I tried to watch one of them last minute, like I do with everything else, and it didn't work.
Good to know.
And it's sliding scale tickets. So you can buy a $0 ticket or a 15 or whatever up. But you do have to register in advance. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really working on it until then, furiously.
Great. You've been busy during the pandemic. And that reminds me, as we're listening to everyone, also to remember the tipping jar, please. That's just, we're so lucky that this work is coming at us for free. And I'm glad to hear that there are some performances that the Marsh is charging for as well. And it's great that there's this other venue happening that, they rely on the tips for these things to continue as well. All right, who would like to go next?
Hang on a sec. I want to just say that there was a comment. Cynthia Kudabak, who has been a performer, she came to us through Stage Bridge, and we've had her on a couple of times. She says that she highly recommends the golden griffin feather as an alternate take on the myth of Minos.
Mm-hmm.
So Sharon, you know that one.
I wrote it down. No, but I wrote it down. Thank you.
All right, Tim, you want to go next?
Sure. I'll also put a plug in for the tip jar because I moved to San Francisco 31 years ago. And in the back room of the Hotel Utah, I saw this thing, a little flyer for the Marsh. Come see a solo performance. And it has been delighting me ever since. I'm so glad it's still going. I will be telling another fairy tale. The only thing I know on my calendar is September 9th. Better said than done in Fairfax, Virginia. But of course, that'll be virtual because I won't be flying out there. But bettersaidthandone.com. They have storytelling usually twice a month. And I'm on one of their upcoming shows.
Better said than done. That's an easy to remember name. I love that. Congratulations on that Folktale Fighter Award.
Yeah.
I love that. You have been busy in the pandemic too.
Yeah.
All right, Brenna.
I am delighted to flip the script and share my love of storytelling with all the young people in Mancos, Colorado. I am working with MontezumaYouthAlliance.org, and I teach communication through the theater arts. So I'm very busy this summer, and I'm looking forward to being in the high school and the middle school in the fall. So I'm all about helping young people discover their authentic voice and their intuition and their personal authority and develop the ability to truly listen.
Very important.
Well, you guys have been a fantastic way to celebrate the 16th anniversary. We cannot be more thrilled with the way the night went and what each of you brought. So thank you very, very much. So, and thank you to the Marsh.
Kristen and Brianna, thank you for making everything run so smoothly. And yay!
All right, yay! All right, yeah, that's what they do with the kids. Yay!